a bird that dies in fire only to rise again from the ashes. Most people today know it as Fawkes, the loyal companion of Dumbledore and Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. A creature of fantasy born from novels and film. But what if it isn't? What if the Phoenix is not fantasy at all, but memory? An ancient truth disguised as myth. Long before J.K. Rowling ever named it, the Egyptians carved the Bennu bird rising from the flames of creation. The Greeks spoke of the Phoinix, a crimson bird that perished in fire and returned renewed. In China, the Fenghuang soared as a symbol of balance and divine order. And in Persia, the Simurgh spread its wings as guardian of wisdom and healing. Different names, different faces, yet always the same creature dying, burning, and returning. Why would cultures oceans apart, separated by centuries, all remember the same bird of fire? Perhaps because the Phoenix is more than myth. Perhaps it is the oldest symbol of a secret humanity refuses to forget, that from destruction comes renewal. That after the darkest night something can rise again. And if Harry Potter only repeats this ancient story, then the question is not why the Phoenix survives in our imagination. The question is, what truth has it been carrying through fire and ash for over 2,000 years? The story begins not in a novel, but in the desert sun of ancient Egypt. There on the temple walls of Heliopolis, priests recorded the tale of the Bennu bird, a heron-like creature radiant and untouchable that appeared when the world was first born. The Bennu did not merely live, it set the rhythm of time. When it burned, ages ended. When it rose again, a new age began. To the Egyptians, it was not just a bird, but the beating heart of creation itself. Centuries later, the Greeks inherited the memory. They called it the Phoinix. Unlike the Bennu, this bird was said to live for hundreds of years before building its own funeral pyre. It would ignite, collapse into ashes, and then from the blackened dust, a new phoenix would emerge, young, shining, immortal. Herodotus, writing in the 5th century BCE, claimed he had heard the story in Egypt, though he admitted he never saw the creature himself. Still, the idea spread across the Hellenistic world, a bird that could conquer death itself. In Rome, poets such as Ovid and Martial spoke of the phoenix as the image of eternity. Emperors claimed its cycle mirrored the rise and fall of their own rule. To say the phoenix had appeared in one's reign was to say destiny itself had chosen them. But the phoenix did not belong only to the Mediterranean. In China, the Fenghuang ruled as king of birds, a cosmic symbol of harmony, yin and yang united in wings of fire and light. The Persians told of the Simurgh, a majestic bird whose feathers healed the sick and whose wisdom guided heroes. In India, echoes of the bird live on in Garuda, who carried the gods across heaven. Again and again, across continents and centuries, the same vision rises, a creature of flame, death, and renewal. And so when we turn to Harry Potter, we see more than fiction. Fawkes, the loyal phoenix of Dumbledore, does what the ancients always said it would do. It dies in flame only to return reborn. Its tears heal wounds. Its song brings courage in darkness. It carries the weight of centuries in the guise of fantasy. Rowling did not invent the phoenix, she simply gave it new feathers. The same bird that rose from the temples of Heliopolis, from Greek pyres, from Chinese palaces and Persian epics, rises again in the modern imagination. The phoenix has never left us. It only changes its name, its story, its mask appearing wherever humanity needs to believe that even in ruin, life can begin again. When we look closely, the phoenix does not belong to one people or one place. It belongs to everyone. In Egypt, the Bennu was tied to the sun god Ra. Rising each dawn as the world was reborn, its cry was said to mark the beginning of time itself. The Greeks who inherited the tale placed the bird beneath Helios, the charioteer of the sun. To them, the phoenix was not just a creature, but the fire of eternity that burns even when empires fall. In Persia, the Simurgh nested in the tree of life. Its feathers healed sickness, its wisdom mended broken kings. It was not a bird of fire alone, but of knowledge, a living bridge between heaven and earth. And yet the motif remains a creature that endures through ages, carrying secrets older than men. In China, the Fenghuang was not consumed by flames, but burned with radiance. Its body shimmered with the 5 colors of the elements, a perfect balance of yin and yang. Like the phoenix of the West, it appeared only in times of great harmony, a signal that heaven and earth were in accord. The Fenghuang did not die and rise, it simply endured just as dynasties sought to endure forever. In India, Garuda spreads his wings across the sky as the Mount of Vishnu. Though more eagle than heron, he carries the same solar essence, the same symbolism of victory over darkness. In Vedic ritual, fire itself is seen as a bird Agni, with flaming wings bearing offerings to the gods. Here again, the bird and the flame merge into one eternal image. Even among the Celts and Norse echoes stir. In the Prose Edda, a fiery bird sits upon the world tree, whispering secrets to the eagle above. In Celtic tales, birds of flame fly from the other world, heralding transformation and rebirth. How can this be coincidence? How could cultures divided by oceans, mountains, and centuries all imagine the same fiery bird? Perhaps they did not imagine at all. Perhaps they remembered. It may be that the phoenix is not a myth created independently, but a memory carried across migrations, preserved in rituals reshaped by each new civilization. The Egyptians passed it to the Greeks, the Persians to the Arabs, the East to the West, until it became impossible to say where the fire began and where it ended. And yet the image endures, a bird that does not die, a flame that does not go out, a hope that refuses to be buried. When Harry Potter presents Fawkes, it is tapping into this cross-cultural current. The phoenix does what it has always done: heal, protect, rise again. But more importantly, it reminds us that across every culture, we all cling to the same dream that from ash, something greater can return. If the phoenix is only a myth, then why does it return again and again in every culture? Science and archaeology offer us fragments of an answer. In Egypt, the Bennu bird may have been inspired by the heron that nested along the Nile. Each year, when the floods receded and the land came alive again, the heron would reappear, seeming to rise from death just as the fields were reborn. Archaeologists have found temple inscriptions linking the Bennu to these cycles, suggesting that the bird of fire was born. Not in the sky, but in the rhythms of the earth. The Greeks, inheriting the tale, may have added the element of fire from the desert sun. Travelers reported that birds flying across the horizon sometimes appeared aflame in the blazing heat. To ancient eyes, this shimmer of light could easily become a story of combustion and rebirth. Other scholars point to the pelican, known in medieval bestiaries to wound itself and feed its young with its own blood. Though not truly fiery, the image of self-sacrifice may have merged with the phoenix to form the idea of renewal through death. But there is another deeper layer. Across archaeological sites, fire is not just a tool, it is a ritual. Charred remains in Neolithic burials suggest that burning was tied to purification. The cremation of bodies across India and Greece reflects the same belief that flame is not destruction but passage. In this light, the phoenix is the perfect metaphor. It is not simply a bird, it is fire itself embodied. Even geology lends weight. Volcanic eruptions bury towns in ash, only for new life to flourish in the fertile soil years later. Entire forests burn, but from their ashes sprout seedlings stronger than before. The phoenix is this cycle made flesh, the natural truth that death and destruction are never the end, but the seed of renewal. And so the archaeologist must ask, did humanity invent the phoenix? Or did the earth itself teach us the story? When the Nile heron returned, when volcanoes remade the land, when flames consumed the dead but promised life beyond, did we not see the same pattern written everywhere? What science shows is that the phoenix is not a fantasy conjured from nothing. It is a symbol born from observation, pressed into myth and carried forward by ritual. And when it appears today in novels and films, it is not a fiction. It is the same truth whispered again, that nothing ends, not even in fire. The phoenix is not merely a bird, it is a mirror. Every culture that tells its story is not describing feathers or wings, but the most ancient fear and hope of humanity, that death can be overcome, that endings are never final. In Egypt, the Bennu was tied to the sun's journey across the sky. Each day, the sun vanished into darkness. Each morning, it rose again in fire. The phoenix became the emblem of cosmic order, the promise that light always returns. To die in flame and rise anew was simply to echo the sun's eternal rhythm. In Greece and Rome, the phoenix became the emblem of empire. As dynasties burned and cities fell, poets clung to the image of renewal. To claim the phoenix in one's reign was to say, even if the old world crumbles, this rule will endure. It was propaganda, but also confession that even kings feared decay and needed a symbol that whispered of eternity. In China, the Fenghuang embodied harmony itself. It did not burn and rise, but remained unshaken, radiant through the ages. Its symbolism revealed another layer of the phoenix myth, not only rebirth, but the perfection of balance. If the Western phoenix is the flame of renewal, the Eastern phoenix is the calm fire that never dies. For the Persians, the Simurgh represented wisdom. Its feathers healed wounds, its presence restored order. Here, the symbolism shifts again. Rebirth is not only physical, but intellectual, spiritual. To be reborn is to see with new eyes. Even in Christianity, the phoenix found a place. Early church fathers called it a sign of resurrection, a living sermon carved into feathers and flame. In medieval bestiaries, it became a parable of Christ consumed yet returned, carrying salvation in its very body. So the phoenix is not one meaning but many. Fire and purification, death and renewal, power and eternity, balance and harmony, healing and wisdom, resurrection and salvation. And yet beneath all these masks lies the same heartbeat: transformation. The phoenix tells us that destruction is not the enemy but the doorway, that ash is not the end but the beginning, that through fire life itself is reforged. When Harry Potter's phoenix sings in the Chamber of Secrets, when its tears fall to heal, when it rises again after burning, these are not fantasies. They are reminders of an ancient code etched into human memory, the belief that we can rise again no matter how total the ruin. The symbol survives because we need it, and perhaps we always will. The phoenix does not speak in words but in fire, and the fire whispers a philosophy older than any book: nothing truly ends. For humanity, this has always been the central question. What happens after loss, after ruin, after death? Most creatures vanish into silence, but the phoenix answers differently. It tells us that destruction itself is part of the cycle, that within the ashes lies the seed of return. This is why the phoenix is so powerful as a symbol. It teaches that endings are not failure but transformation. A city burns, a forest turns to cinders, a life is cut short. Yet from these ashes new growth takes root, new light breaks through, new generations rise. The phoenix is the shape of this truth made visible. Philosophers have long wrestled with this idea. The Stoics called it ekpyrosis, the belief that the cosmos itself burns to ash only to be reborn in eternal recurrence. In Eastern thought, the same vision appears: cycles of destruction and renewal, samsara and rebirth, fire and return. Even Nietzsche, millennia later, spoke of the eternal return, a universe that dies and rises forever. The phoenix then is not just myth or religion. It is philosophy embodied. It asks us, can you accept loss as the path to renewal? Can you see death not as an end, but as transformation? This is why the phoenix still matters. When we read of Fawkes bursting into flame only to emerge as a chick from the ashes, we are not witnessing fantasy, we are witnessing the same riddle humanity has carried for thousands of years. We laugh, we cry, we hope, because deep down we know the truth it carries, that we too must burn before we can rise. And so the Phoenix is less about immortality and more about courage. Courage to face fire.
It was never
courage to endure endings. Courage to believe that what comes after will be worth the ash. It is a philosophy carved into every culture, every era, every myth. And it is one we still need today. So if the Phoenix is not fantasy but memory, what else might we have mistaken for fiction? For thousands of years, humanity has carried the same image, a bird of fire, a creature of rebirth. It survived the fall of empires, the silence of tombs, the crossing of oceans. It burned in temples, soared in myths, and now flickers in the pages of a modern novel. If the Phoenix is proof that we remember across centuries, then perhaps every legend is a fragment of something real. Perhaps the creatures we dismiss as symbols were once rituals, once visions, once truths we no longer dare to face. And if fire itself can take form in a bird, what of water? What of stone? What of shadow? The Phoenix may not be the only survivor. There may be others hidden, forgotten, waiting to rise again. The question is not whether we believe in them. The question is, will we recognize them when they return?